Well, good afternoon here on the East Coast, and good morning on the West Coast, and happy Tuesday. I'm sorry, is it Tuesday? No, I'm sorry. Yeah, it is. I'm sorry, Wednesday. We're doing so many on the dots, I get lost in space. Happy January 26th, 2022, and it's a Wednesday. Okay. Well, first of all, I want to thank everyone who has come on the dot this week. We had a great group this week. We early on Monday we had May Fox, who's a writer for Forbes magazine, and her husband is working on an amazing trilogy. And they live in Hawaii. They came on the dot, or she came on the dot on Monday. If you get a chance, you definitely want to watch that. She's a brilliant woman and's got fantastic wisdom to share with people. So that's May on Monday. Thank you. I want to thank John Rainbolt, who is the expert in the area of microbes, and his company To Be Kind, and his product that's coming out, which is called Anesthesia, is going to change and it's going to revolutionize pain, because I've tried the product and it's in this bottle here. It's amazing. And John Rainbolt, thank you for coming on yesterday. And thank you to Holly Lombardi. Holly Lombardi is with Euphoria. Thank you so much. She was fantastic. I mean, she's amazing. She's a former actress, dancer. She does it all. And she is focused on Euphoria to help people with their health all around the world. So thank you, Holly. And I want to also thank Club Nirvana and my good friend Pierre Bouljean, who I would never have known about Club Nirvana. And he introduced me to Virginia and Tom Yerrick, who are the founders of Club Nirvana. And Club Nirvana is the science of cannabis. And that is a great company. So I want to thank Club Nirvana. I want to thank Euphoria Science, which is nutrition based on your unique DNA. Great company. I want to thank the Players NIL. And NIL stands for name, image, and likeness. A great organization that's just getting started, and very excited about the Players NIL. If you're a young student athlete and you want to know how to brand yourself, and if you're not just for, let's say you love to play chess or you love to paint and you want to know how to brand yourself, the Players NIL is not just for athletes, even though athletes, that we have a lot of experience with athletes. You can, whatever you want to do, we are focused on helping young students find their bliss. And then I want to thank my good friend Alex Von Allman and his new team member, Laini Harris, for Brand Mother. They have some great companies that they're working with. So I want to thank them. And this on the dot, I am so excited. You're probably looking at the background here. We've got the University of California at Berkeley, and we got the Stanford Cardinal, and this is the big game. And our guest, I'm gonna bring him up in about 7 minutes. What a story he has to share, his journey from Southern California, where we both went to high school, all the way to what he's doing today, which is in the real estate world. But in between, you're going to hear an amazing story. Someone that in the last 40 years we've stayed in touch. So he'll be coming on in about 6 minutes. But I want to dedicate this to my family, this show to my family here in New York, and that's my brother Dara and my stepmother Nari. And Nari was born in Cambodia, and I want to wish Nari, she has transitioned, but she really made a huge difference in my father's life. And she went through a lot during the war that was going on in Cambodia in the 70s. And if it weren't for her, my father wouldn't have been as happy. So thank you, Nari. Thank you, Dara, for welcoming me here in New York. And I want to thank my cousins, Henry and his wife, Rumi Dotterer, and their children. That's Cody, Joey, and Saku. And I want to thank Skylar Dotterer, who I'm going to be getting in touch today, because he has decided that American football is what he wants to pursue, and he's in high school. So Skylar, this is dedicated for you as well. And then I want to send out my sympathies to my good friend John Blum and his brothers Chipper and Peter, the transition of their father. My prayers go out to you, and I sent them a piece by Ari Schwartz, who's a cantor who sang a song in Hebrew called Generation to Generation. And the reason I sent that song to John and his family and Chipper is because his father, Dr. Blum, I had a great conversation with him a number of years ago. He's told me how music can be so therapeutic for the brain. And so thank you, Dr. Blum. Your spirit lies within all the people that you touched. And thank you for your wisdom, and we'll miss you. But I know your spirit resides with us. And now for birthdays. I want to wish happy birthday to my Aunt Eleanor Romano up in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, where today it was 35 degrees in Saskatoon. And here in New York, it was 2 degrees. So that's kind of rare, Canada and New York. I want to wish happy birthday to Wayne Gretzky, who is also from Canada, I believe from Alberta. The great Wayne Gretzky. It's his birthday today. I want to wish happy birthday to my good friend Meredy Houston Charlton, whose parents, Bobby and Jack, were so kind to me when I was in college. And Jack actually got me suited up. So I want to wish happy birthday to Bobby and to Meredy, their daughter. I want to wish happy birthday to Bunny Light. Happy birthday, Bunny. I talked with you earlier, and say hi to Sam for me. And it's also Darren Kagan's birthday today, Stanford grad, famous name from CNN. Happy birthday, Darren. Ellen DeGeneres, the famous comedian. It's her birthday today. I want to wish happy birthday to Don Churchward. Don was just an amazing man, the father of my teammate Mark and their whole family with Donna. And happy birthday to Don, even though he's not with us today. It's his birthday, so he was great, and we love talking about the Dodgers. Happy birthday to Lon Hadamia. Many of you might not know Lon, but Lon played baseball at Harvard and has gone on to an amazing career. He was the Secretary of Agriculture for the state of California, and I wish Lon happy birthday, my good friend Lon. Happy birthday to my Phi Alpha fraternity brother, John Sandler, who's in Las Vegas. He's the voice of UNLV basketball. Happy birthday to Gary Plummer, Kevin Moen. We're going to bring Kevin on in just a few minutes. It's Gary Plummer's birthday. And so happy birthday to Gary, who's a great Cal Bear player that played in the big game that we're going to talk a little bit about. And he was also a Super Bowl champion with the 49ers. Happy birthday to Jeff Walsh, who's also a Cal Bear, good friend of mine. He quarterback. And in high school, he had Mike Holmgren as his high school football coach. So I'll never forget when I learned that. It's amazing to have a coach like Mike Holmgren coaching in high school. And happy birthday to my Mater Dei teammate, because I went to 4 high schools. Mater Dei was one of them. Joe Donahue, who was a great linebacker for us at Mater Dei. Happy birthday, Joe. And happy birthday to another Cal Bear, Jeffrey Earl Warren. And you probably recognize the name Earl Warren, who was a Supreme Court justice. Well, this is his grandson, Jeffrey Earl Warren. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to Marcus Nerona, good friend of mine. Hi, Marcus. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to AJ Bush, another friend. John Chivers, happy birthday. And the final person, great rock player. Unfortunately, he's also transitioned, Eddie Van Halen's birthday today. So we're at the top of the hour, and I'm so excited because this is a man. I'm just going to kind of give you a brief introduction. We first met, I think it was 1977 or 78, probably right around then. And the Seattle Mariners had a youth team, and one of the top scouts in Southern California put together this Seattle Mariner youth team, and we got to wear the Seattle Mariner uniforms. And that's when I first met our special guest who's coming on. And then we played together in the Shrine Game, which is an all-star game for Southern California, in the Rose Bowl when we were in our senior year of high school, which is, that's a dream come true. And our quarterback was Jeff Tedford, and their quarterback was John Elway. And we had some great players. A lot of players off that team went to the National Football League. And then he went to the University of California, and I went to Stanford, and we played against each other for all 4 years there at what they call the big game. And the last game, it was 40 years ago, this coming November, he did something that will, as they say, it will go down in infamy. And he scored the touchdown, and they call it the play. And then after our college, we both signed professional contracts with the Raiders. And that's why I'm wearing this shirt, because I was thinking, well, I can't wear the blue because I went to Stanford, but I wasn't going to rub it in and wear the red. So I thought, we're both Raiders. So there we go. So without further ado, I'm going to bring on my good friend and truly an amazing figure in sports, because he was part of one of the greatest victories, a game, whatever you want to call it, in the history of college sports, and probably, I would say, argue the history of all sports. So without further ado, my good friend, Kevin Moen. How are you, Kevin?
Oh, man, all's good. Great going back through our lineage of history there and our sports connections. That was fun to listen to. It's been a while since I looked back in the 1970 era, but hey, those were some great times back then,
They were
Baseball,
amazing.
football, basketball, and school, and that was about it. Simpler time back then.
Well, you had amazing. I mean, your path is truly phenomenal. You grew up. Correct me if I'm wrong. You grew up in Rolling Hills, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. And were you born in Rolling Hills?
No, I was born in the Valley in the Northridge. Lived in Northridge growing up, and then actually moved up to the Bay Area in Lafayette for a few years, and then back down here in junior high. And then went to Rolling Hills High School, and then back up to Cal. So I'm a bi-coastal California native. So
Yeah, you are bi-coastal.
But now I'm back down here and actually living in Rolling Hills now, and raised my family down here, and my kids and grandkids are all around now, and so this is home down here.
Well, it's beautiful. I'm here in New York, and it was. I woke up. It was 2 degrees today.
Yeah,
that's in Fahrenheit. So
yeah. No, we're cold when it gets to be 55. So today's a sunny bluebird day and 70 degrees, and yeah, it's a classic winter day here in California now. So.
Well, you grew up there, and there's some great. I mean, Tracy Austin, wasn't she a great?
Yeah, Tracy Austin. It's a good area for tennis, and a lot of sports guys came out of this area. And Don Slott, I don't know if you know him. He went to high school with us and went on to play for the Angels for many years. And so we have a pretty good lineage of pro athletes that have come out of here, and good little sports neck of the woods here.
Yeah, it's Southern California's great tradition of athletics, and obviously of the great weather, so you can play a lot of these sports year round, right?
Right. So I got a question for you. After hearing your 4 high school thing, how did you end up going to 4 high schools?
Well,
because I look at you as a Huntington Beach guy.
Yeah. Well, that's the last high school I went to was right. Edison High School in Huntington Beach. Well, what happened was in 1972, my parents got divorced.
All right.
And so my mother moved to Sacramento. We were living in a place called Orinda, California.
Uh-huh. Sure.
And my mother moved to Sacramento, got remarried. And this was before Kramer versus Kramer.
Right. Uh-huh.
Well, there was no custody battles. So I could go wherever I wanted to go. It wasn't going to go to the courts or anything. So I first went with my mother in Sacramento, and there was a high school there called Rio Americano High School.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I played my freshman football at Rio.
Okay.
And that's where remember back then, this is 1975 because we both the same age. Remember we had that drill called the Oklahoma drill?
Oh, sure. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Kevin, I played linebacker as a freshman in high school.
All right. You got to know that drill well.
Well, when I share that with people, they say, "Oh, and that's why, Mike, you do certain."
Yeah. Well, I believe they've outlawed that drill now, right? You can't do it anymore. It was just
can't do it anymore. Yeah. So
that was old school.
Yeah, that was my first high school. My dad moved to Reno, Nevada.
Okay.
And I said to my mom, after my freshman football season, I said, "Mom, I want to go live with Dad." And again, there was no custody battle back in 1970. So I moved to Reno, and my sophomore year, I also played. Again, my sophomore year, I played linebacker, and I also played running back. And I went to Reno High School in Reno, Nevada.
All right.
Which that was there was a guy named Glenn Carano. I don't know if you remember, quarterback from the Cowboys.
Yeah,
he was the guy that even though Roger Staubach was the first teamer, Glenn he was the holder for the kicker. And Glenn went to high school. He didn't go to Reno High, but he was my hero because here's a guy from Reno who's playing in the National Football League. And Glenn, as you may know, he's been the head of the big casino in Nevada.
Okay.
Anyway,
Caesars?
no, that's well. You know what? His company was bought by Caesars.
Right.
So yeah, he's in it, and he's on the New York or not the Nevada Boxing Commission. And his daughter. Do you remember a woman? She was a MMA boxer, Carano. That's his daughter.
Yeah,
that's Glenn's daughter. So anyway, so my father, we're in Reno. And Reno back then, they called it the smallest little city in the world.
Right.
And because in order to get to the next level, you need exposure.
Right.
And my dad said, my dad was like my agent. And he said, this is too small of a market.
Right.
We need to go to Southern California where they really play football. And he went around and did his research, and he came across this league called the Angeles League.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the schools, you remember, Bishop Amat, St. Paul, Servite. Who are the other schools? And then Mater Dei.
I got a little visitor that just popped in.
Oh, you know what? That's time for me to shut up. Who is this this is your grandson, right?
This is Colton, my little grandson. He's getting ready to go to soccer practice. Colton. He just started playing soccer. Say hi. Say hi, Mike.
Hi, Mike.
Hi, Colton. How old are you, Colton?
How bad?
How old are you?
How old are you?
I don't know.
He's 3. But he's a golden bear in training.
Colton, we would like for you to take a look at we call it the farm. It's Stanford University.
We got a second Saturday.
What did he just say?
I don't know. I can't interpret him. I need his mother to interpret stuff. Say, go Bears.
Colton, let me tell you a little advice, Colton. When you play soccer, hit the ball, use everything you can, your legs, your feet, shoulder, but don't use your head, Colton. No hitting the ball with the head. But use everything. Soccer, Colton, soccer is the most popular sport in the world.
Yeah. He loves it.
Now, I got to ask you this.
He's got to go. He's got to go to soccer.
Bye, Colton.
Go Bears.
Did he just say go Bears?
We're training him early here.
Wait,
so
are you going to go to my papa?
I'll try. So that's part of my chaos when I work at home.
I got to ask you, Kevin, because I've seen you, and this is interesting. I've seen you, Kevin, on the horses.
Yeah, that's my latest.
Have you got Colton on the horses?
Yeah. So we got a little pony. We got a couple horses, couple rope horses, because that about 10 years ago, I went back and was coaching at my old high school, helping out. And then I got done with that after about 4 years. And my daughter had always been in the equestrian world. And where we live, there's a Western-oriented riding club that has cattle. They do team roping, all these different things. And so we had in our mid-50s a premonition to go get into rodeo stuff. And so we bought a couple horses, and kind of that's been our new endeavor. And along with that is the grandkids love to go be around the horses. So in conjunction with the 2 rope horses we have, we got a little pony for them to ride. So they're up there, 4 times a week. I have a granddaughter who's 7, so she's a little older, and they get them out and go ride around and have fun. So it's a new endeavor. But I got to tell you, there's not many things at our age we could go get competitive in, but this team roping element has become such a big sport throughout, primarily, the Oklahomas, Texas, the Western states, where an old guy like me can go compete with a bunch of young guys. And at the World Series event at the end of the year in Vegas, in the division I'm in, I think the payout was like $300,000 this year for the winner. And so it's a highly competitive, but it gets your juices flowing in a way that, we typically don't get that opportunity the older we get. But this was something we kind of got involved in and became dedicated to. And so having a lot of fun doing it. In fact, I'm getting ready to go to an event down in Arizona this weekend, and requires a little athleticism, a little bit of technical skill, and a lot of guys that you're competing with grew up in this world. So we're at a little bit of a disadvantage, but we're having a lot of fun doing it. Give it a go. So
wow, that is, and you just took up this sport. At what age did you start?
Oh, it was about 52, 53. And yeah, I had some buddies that were doing it, and they said, hey, get a horse, come on. So I got a horse, learned to ride a little bit, and then trying to develop a skill set to rope a cow in this environment takes a while. So we kind of set forth, trying to get better and better. And a couple of years ago, a buddy and me actually won a pretty big event in the San Luis Obispo area. And that qualified us to go to Vegas that year, and went to Vegas for the finals. We didn't have any luck in Vegas, but it was just a great experience. You have just thousands of people competing in these events, and just a lot of fun, big family oriented type of thing. The kids all come, and, grandkids and parents and everything else. So it was kind of having a new shot at doing something fun and exciting. So
wow. So you went to Vegas to compete for the $300,000 prize.
Yeah. So
how many competitors when you're at that level? How many teams?
There are about 1,000 entries per division. So you're competing with about 1,000 other guys. Wow. And so you got to have a good set of skills, but then a lot of luck, because a lot of luck comes into it. So, but it was just a fun experience, and I'm looking forward to trying to get back there this year. So you have to come check it out.
Well, when you mention luck, because there's a lot of people that are tuning in because, back in 1982, come on, Kevin, here it is, 40 years, almost 40 years ago. Could you share with our audience, because there's some people listening. This is, by the way, we're broadcasting live on YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, and LinkedIn. So this is everyone over the world. So could you share with the audience what happened 40 years ago? Well,
that talk about luck. I'll tell you, to start with, that was just a great experience to be a part of that. Your 4 years at Stanford and my 4 at Cal were just great big games. I mean, they all were. They all went down to the wire. They went down to the last minute, last second. And that particular one, being our senior year, with just a great game. You almost won it for Stanford on that run you had, and to set up that last field goal you guys kicked. But at that point, it was pretty frustrating from us because we thought we had played a great defensive game against you guys and held you and Elway and your whole operation to a pretty low, production level for your guys' skill set. And then to come down to that last play was just, I don't even know how to explain it. It's just the epitome of a great team concept, just, hey, sharing with your buddies the ball and hoping things work out, because we didn't have a real big plan going into it. It was just kind of when I first got it, I actually thought, okay, I'm going to score. And then, as I got 3 Stanford guys running at me, I said, hey, here you go. And fortuitously, I just looked over and saw Richard standing on the sideline. So all that whole play was just a great dynamic of team and working together and taking advantage of an opportunity, a really unique opportunity.
Well, that when you scored the touchdown and then you jumped up and you came down on Gary Tyrrell, right?
Yeah, that's it. My buddy, man. I'll tell you, we've grown a great friendship over the last 40 years because a lot of the things that we get together to celebrate the big game and whatnot, they bring out Gary and I to kind of give our side of the story. But yeah, I realized I was in the end zone. Just to set the record straight, I actually didn't intend on running over Gary. I had my mind focused on getting in the end zone. And when I got into the end zone and realized we had scored, that was just a pure celebration. When I jumped up and just, unfortunately, Gary was in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah.
So that was my introduction to him. Introduction
and
to the Stanford band.
And didn't Johnny Carson, when he heard about what happened with Johnny Carson?
Well, we never did a Johnny Carson show, but we've done numerous shows over that time. We did one with Gary Marshall where we all flew down, and the zinger in that one was I had part of the prank was that Gary walked out with this bent up trombone, and I had to reach in and grab out $2,000 and say, hey, Gary, I'm sorry I broke your trombone, but maybe this can buy you a new one. But since the guys that were down there, the other guys in the play were all on scholarship, we couldn't get any money. So we had to give it to Gary. And then we tried to corral him afterwards to go get some of that, and he was gone. He later told me he bought a new stereo and he spent it wisely. So.
Well, I was talking to a teammate of mine. I don't know if you know him, but he actually, in that play, the last play of the big game, he was on the field. He was on the field with you, and his name is Eric Hardgrave.
Okay.
And I'll set this up for you. I don't know if you've ever heard this, but there was Eric Hardgrave, Mike Aldretti, Steve Bushell, and Vince Sikowski. And they were all fraternity brothers, Todd Delta fraternity brothers, who also were, all 4 of them were outstanding baseball players.
Right.
We're talking, they all played professional baseball.
Yeah.
Well, they had a few too many drinks in the game. And when the band got ready, they were out there,
right.
which is, we know, after that game, no longer could the bands come down on the field.
Yeah.
Well, they went down. They, I guess, maybe felt like they were part of the band. So they went down on the field with the band.
Oh, no.
And when the band ran out, they were right there with the band. And
oh, no.
Listen to that. And Eric Hardgrave said for me to tell you that he could have tackled you on the 5-yard line.
Well, he didn't.
He didn't because he said he had a few too many.
Yeah.
Whatever they were drinking, John Elway loved Coors Light or whatever.
Yeah.
But
I was pretty focused on getting in the end zone. It would have taken a pretty good hit to get me down at that point.
Oh, you were moving. You
get that adrenaline going, and at that point, when I got that last lateral, I really consciously said, "Go." just go. And, it would have taken a good hit from him to get me down.
Well, who knows? Maybe it would have. Maybe Aldretti, Bouchel,
Yeah.
and Hargrave together.
Yeah.
But
There you go.
that's when you don't want to. You don't. They say don't drive and drink. Well,
Uh-huh.
don't go on the field.
Yeah. Yeah,
So-
I'm sure there's, that's one of the fun things over all these years is hearing these people's stories who were either left the stadium or, what it meant to them being in that stadium at that time and the impact it had. I get letters continuously for over all these years from people all over the country saying what an impact it had on their life, how they were discouraged about something, but that gave them the motivation to never quit. And it's really been kind of fascinating over all these years to hear the people. Everybody's got a story,
Yeah.
and it's fun to go back and listen to those stories. So,
well, he added, just to let you know, Eric Hargrave, after his professional baseball career, he went to go work with a bank that you're familiar with called Union Bank.
oh, sure. Oh, yeah. So he went to work for my dad, huh?
And
there you go.
he remembers meeting your father.
Yeah.
And he wanted to say something like, he was, like, your son. But he held his composure because he didn't want to get fired.
There you go. There you go. Yeah. Another connection to my dad and a couple things. One, Joe Starkey used to work for Union Bank, who was the announcer at Cal, who really, defines that play. To me, the call he made to capture that moment, to me, is historical and one of the greatest calls of all time, in my opinion. But he worked for my dad as well. And ironically, my dad was a kind of a amateur photographer. So during that play, he was actually up in the stands taking a series of photos of that. Turns out he was the only guy that had color photos of the play. So he's gotten a little bit of credit for stuff. He shot him off to Sports Illustrated to do a rendering of the play. And so his highlight of that moment was getting some photography of his put out in the world. So.
Well, you know what? It just to let you know how amazing that era was. Do you see who just sent a message? Remember Coach Nick Holt?
Sure. Yeah.
He's listening right now, and he just
there
said,
you go.
Great stuff.
Yeah.
And then here's another friend of I played baseball with Bill Conrad, and he said he says here, Kevin and I were high school rivals in football and baseball down in SoCal.
There you go. There you go.
So we got it. We got some people listening in.
Yeah.
Well, it was a great game, and it's still. I mean, they've been playing the big game. Stanford and Cal have been playing the big game for how many years now, Kevin?
120 plus, I think, something like that. It's been a long rivalry with some great history to it.
Well, let me ask you, what are your thoughts about the last 2 years with what we're going through this COVID-19, and what are your thoughts?
It's just been very impactful, on society as well as sports. This year wasn't as bad. I think we had a little rejuvenation of things this year, but that 2020 was a bleak year. Games getting canceled, not sure if they were going to play on the high school, all levels. It was it was just kind of a depressing time to be a sports fan. And I just remember when they decided to play, I think it was basketball. Somebody was going to actually the draft, the NFL draft. I remember in the past, I vaguely watched that and followed it. That was like the sporting event that was taking place. And I was like, we had, hot dogs and stuff to get together to watch that. And this year was a little bit more normal for the most part, but it'll be nice when we get through this pandemic and back to a true set of normal games, normal attendance, that type of thing. It'll be interesting to see the Super Bowl. I just got a little memo that they're going to be distributing, N95 masks, or those KN95 masks, to anybody that goes to the game. And so you're required to wear them in the stadium. But yeah, this pandemic has played a role for the last couple of years in everybody's life. And it hasn't been, there's been some positive things that have come out of it, but I'll be glad when it's over. I want just the freedom to go do. One of the nice things about team roping is it's an outdoor event, outdoor arena for the most part. So, you haven't had as big a restrictive element to it, but yeah, everybody's kind of ready to be done with this, I think.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that goes through my mind is if you're a young athlete, like I've got a man who I'm going to have on the dot in a couple hours. His name is Quentin Meeks. And Quentin was a defensive back at Stanford. Actually intercepted a ball in the Rose Bowl against Iowa and ran it back, I think, 75 yards for a touchdown. And he was on the Tennessee Titans this year.
Okay.
And he decided that he did not want to get the jab.
Right.
And they cut him.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's part of the controversy right now is, individual freedoms to make those choices versus the mandates of what people perceive as, safety precautions. And it's just a hard direction to go in, I feel, people got to be able to make their own decisions. Aaron Rodgers made his decision, and so it's an interesting dynamic as part of all this, how it plays out with, hey, do we mandate this? Do we not? How do we maintain public safety, without doing it? It's a crazy time.
Well, what are your thoughts? I mean, I think this is just to discuss this with you. It's nice that we can go into this in this path, but I think if you're a young athlete, no matter what sport you're in, you're in great shape. The chances of you dying of COVID is I would argue there's a better chance of being hit by a car.
Right. Well,
but here's what let me just press it. But if fans come to the game and let's just say basketball and you've got a guy, a 75-year-old person that's a little bit overweight who's close to the court, and that athlete that comes and falls into the arms of that older person at the game. That's where you can the older person can get that virus, whether it's COVID or it's the Delta or it's the Omicron, and that they could, obviously, if they have some pre-existing conditions, that's serious. So I would just, if I were in a players union, rep, I would say to my organization, I'd say, what, if you have pre-existing conditions or you are compromised, you know what, you might not want to go to the game.
Right.
That's just me. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
And I will say this, I enjoy watching the game from the comfort of my home.
Yeah. Yeah. I just think that not only is in a sports venue, but in the society as a whole. If you are immune compromised and highly sensitive to this, stay at home, because it's proven now that, even if you're vaccinated, you're not necessarily immune to getting it. I got it. I had COVID several months ago and I was vaccinated and everything else. Now it materialized to me as just a cold, but I think, part of the weird element of this pandemic are all the politics, all the side opinions of how we should be addressing it. And I think fundamentally it comes down to your individual choice with your doctor. Is this something I should do or not do? Is there something that is going to have a negative effect on me? And if you're highly sensitive, don't go to an arena. Don't go to a sporting event. It's brought out, some good signs of people and some ugly sides of people in this pandemic. And, I'm of the school that we need to kind of hug each other versus hit each other.
Exactly.
So, and I'm also of opinion that your personal decisions need to be made in conjunction with whoever you're consulting for that benefit, and it might not be right for everybody. And, it'll be interesting to see how it all evolves over time, how the Super Bowl is going to deal with it. They're going to give everybody a mask. Hopefully that protects people, and allows people to go out and feel comfortable functioning in that environment. I will tell you, I think I got an update. The cheapest ticket was like, $1,800 to be up in the nosebleed at the Super Bowl. So it's a little bit more than I want to spend to go sit way up high. I'm like you. I'd rather sit in my living room and be able to watch it at home, and actually watch the game.
Right.
So,
right. Yeah.
But it'll be fun, man. We got some fun games coming up. I'll tell you, that last weekend of games has playoffs should be, right? That they were all big games like we had participated in, and they all went down to a field goal kicker kicking a field goal. And this Niner Ram game should be a blast, for the third time this year. And so I'm looking forward to how this plays out at the end.
Are you do you want to make any selections? What are your thoughts for these?
Well, I got to tell you, I guess I call myself a Ram fan, but I really appreciate the Niners and that whole program. Going to school up there, I was a Niner fan during the Joe Montana era and stuff like that. And so I just think at some point you run out of the ability to beat a team that many times in a row. And I think it's 6 times in a row and twice this season with an overtime game last time. So I'm kind of feeling like the Rams probably they're due to win this game, but it should be a good game. It's playoff football and you never know what will happen. But I just think the odds they got to be getting in the Rams' favor to a degree. So,
right.
And then that Kansas City team, I love Cincinnati, but man, how do you beat Mahomes?
It's amazing. I don't think we've ever seen a quarterback like him.
Well, I'll tell you, Elway brought a lot of elements to the game that you hadn't seen before as well. His ability to scramble, his ability to throw deep after a scramble, all the things he brought. Mahomes kind of has his own little unique ability to create things. And when you got a guy like Hill that you can throw to, we talked about this earlier, that's a weapon. That's a special weapon right there. So it should be fun. It's a fun time to be a football fan.
It is. We got to say now for Colton, your grandson, we have to say it's a good time to be an American football fan.
Yeah, exactly.
Colton he plays the real football, right?
Well, I'll tell you, it's a great thing watching these little 3-year-olds running around out there trying to learn a game. And you can tell kind of who likes to mix it up and who doesn't. His dad was a college football quarterback. Actually, his dad and my son grew up together, and I coached them in Pop Warner. And so they were teammates way back when, and Andrew went on to play Charleston Southern. So he's got a good athletic gene pool. And so he was out there. You can tell these little 3-year-olds, some are a little more inhibited. Some just want to go after it, and Colton's like that. He's got no fear. So he may be a little linebacker in coming up through the pipeline here.
His grandfather. His grandfather.
There you go.
Well, you know what? Are you going to teach him how to lateral?
Oh yeah, he's got that down already. That's part of the gene pool came with that. So yeah,
why, I see these American football games where, during the year, there's times where the last play is there's a play the last play of the game and they can start the lateral and none of them know how to do it.
No, I'll tell you that's why that play was so unique, just because the execution went off fairly flawlessly in terms of guys not fumbling it and that type of thing. And
his knee was down.
that's all a point of interpretation. If you're blue or you're red, that knee was at least that much off the ground. So, but in terms of the execution of the laterals and the pitches and stuff like that, when you see it occur, it's fairly random. So it's really a hard thing to practice because you don't know where the defense is going to be. You don't know how it's going to set up. And, most teams end up just throwing it around and hitting the ground. And once it hits the ground, it gives the defense a chance to catch you.
Right.
So,
well, I'll tell you, what's amazing also, Kevin, is there's 3 or 4 books that are coming out this year.
Yeah.
Do you know what?
No, it lives on. We've done over the years a series of TV things, specials, documentaries. Most recently we did Eli Manning's Peyton Place segment, and that was kind of fun. I actually had to redon pads for that one and run through it with them. So it lives on, and there's several books that one of your Stanford mates he spent probably 8 years. He's interviewed, 400 people to get the inside scoop on that.
I got his book right. He wrote a book before the book that he's writing on Tyler Bridges, and book, he wrote a book about his father called the Flight. His father's war, a son's search.
Okay.
But that's the book he wrote, a couple of years ago, and now he's writing about the game, the big game.
It'll be interesting to see how that translates. And there's a gentleman from Cal that's writing a book as well. And so it lives on, man. I'll tell you, it was such a unique environment and circumstance that it's kind of amazing that it's created this history to it, and interest in it, but it lives on. I'm just glad I didn't fumble,
Well, someone mentioned it to me that it's almost Shakespearean. It's like a Shakespearean play.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many plots and all the things that have, and so I just want to say thank you for what you did, even though, I love what our newspaper did the next day.
Yeah.
I love that.
I met that guy a couple of years ago doing a thing. This producer of a show was friends with the editor of the guy that put that together. And that's the greatest. If you can't appreciate that, you can't appreciate any good joke, because they recreated the Daily Cal as recalling the game, all the articles, all the stuff they put in that was phenomenal. I still remember sitting on campus reading that going, no way, this is no way. That was one of the greatest things. So he sent me a copy of it. I didn't have it. So now I got a copy of that old Daily Cal.
Well, you might want to put that up on the.
Yeah. I will. It was great.
Just for conversation, So gosh, and then you signed, we both were in training camp at the El Rancho Tropicana.
Yeah.
Remember the Raiders?
That was a crazy time. That was a crazy raid. I remember Matuzak. The characters on that team were pretty classical. It was my introduction to football at the pro level. Day one, we're doing one-on-one drills, and I go out, and there's Cliff Branch in front of me, and we're doing press man, and I'm a safety. I'm a back guy in zone, and so, but we were doing man-to-man drills, and so my first introduction is Cliff Branch, and Jim Plunkett was the quarterback, and he took one step, one side jab. I missed him on a jam. He was gone, and there I was about 20 yards trailing him, and Plunkett hit him right in stride, and I said, man, this is a different game. This is a speed-oriented, and those were two classic, Hall of Fame kind of guys. But that was a great group of guys. I was there for a cup of coffee, but that was the year they went on to win the Super Bowl and go to the Super Bowl. And
that was
just a great group of guys. There you go.
And just for all the young people out there, Kevin signed a contract and I signed a contract. So we're both NFL alumni. You know, it's like being in a movie. You know, and so he was on the team. We were both on the team, and Kevin got cut. The next year, I got cut, but you know, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You know, you played in the National Football League, and
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. You know, it really doesn't. I was on injury
Yeah.
reserve. I never wore this ring, Kevin, for a long time because I didn't think I earned it. But guys that I played with said, you know, hey, you got to sign the contract and, you know, drafted, all that stuff. Doesn't mean, but anybody. So if there's anyone out there that signed an NFL contract, it doesn't matter whether you played no downs or whatever, you signed the contract.
Right.
You are an NFL alumni. And let's talk. I want to just briefly talk about the NFL. What are your thoughts about how football has changed? Do you have any thoughts on that, Kevin?
Well, you know what? I'll tell you what. It's a fast sport right now. I'll tell you, it's you know, go wide, spread them out, and the athletes. That's probably the biggest difference from when we played to now. Is there is speed at every position, and it's just a violent, fast-moving game with a lot of big bodies moving quickly. You know, when you look at the D linemen today and the offensive linemen, you know, these guys are 6'5", 320 pounds, and run a 4.9 40. That's a lot of mass moving quickly. And then you got these defensive guys, same concept, you know. Anybody in the secondary, you know, that's not running 4.4, 4.3, you're just getting outrun because all those guys on offense are running like that. So to me, the biggest, it was a speed-oriented game when we played that's now at a new level of that at every position because, you know, guys have gotten so sophisticated on offense that it's all about matchups. And so I'm going to move this wide receiver, I'm going to make him a running back, and I'm going to put him in a position to line up with a linebacker having to guard him. Well, good luck, you know. So consequently, to answer that, the linebackers now got to run, you know, 4.5, 4.4. And so to me, the biggest differential in the game right now is that everywhere is speed, you know, and if you don't have that element, it's going to be hard for you to play in this world of football today. And just the athleticism. I mean, the athletes at every position is phenomenal to watch. You watch some of these centers. You know, back in the day, I wouldn't even recognize a center, but I love watching the center, you know, the guy for the Niners, Mac, an old cow guy. You watch his athleticism, you know, what he does after hiking the ball, going downfield, pulling on sweeps, doing stuff. These guys are really kind of fun to watch. So I just get a kick out of the ability of these guys at a very high rate of speed doing what they do. So to me, it's an enjoyable game to watch.
Yeah, you're absolutely. They're bigger, faster, stronger, unbelievable. When we played with the Raiders, I think we only had one guy on our team who was just about 300 pounds, and that was Bruce Davis.
Right. Yeah.
But no one else. There was no 300 pounders.
No. I look back at our college roster, the same thing. You know, I think our heaviest guy was like 275. You know, and now, gosh, that's a freshman coming in, working to get up to that 320, 305, 325 type of range. You know, so it's a big body sport, and they're all athletes. The training regimen that these guys go through, hey, it gets them what they need to do. You know. So.
But I do want to say, because we did talk about this earlier before we got on the air. You know, I think if there's a defense, because you were a defensive back,
right,
and you were outstanding. I mean, you don't sign a professional football contract and not be an outstanding athlete. We know that. But I would say, if you are listening, if you're a young defensive back out there, like Quentin Meeks, for example. Quentin was with the Titans, and we believe that he got cut because, you know, he just decided he didn't want to, you know. But I think today, if you know how to tackle, you know, could you talk about that? Because, you know, there's some. Go ahead.
Well, that was actually my forte. You know, grew up loving to hit people, loving to tackle. And the pride element to me was being a good fundamental tackler, good form, good everything. Now that's evolved over this new era of concern over concussions, because my head was always involved in something. So, on a safety issue, they've changed technique of not utilizing your head in a tackle, which I believe has kind of had some influence on how teams tackle. To me, they're not as good as when we played, because it was fundamental, wrap up, get your head right in there. And now the technique you have to train with is basically arm tackling and not putting your head in there, and shoulder tackling. And so that to me opens up a lot of opportunities for good running backs or wide receivers to keep going, because you're arm tackling a lot. You're not getting your head in there. So to me, you notice, or I notice, and I believe you do too, that there's a lot more missed tackles today than when we were playing.
Yeah.
And now it's really the compensation for that is gang tackling. You better have a lot of guys running to the ball, getting there, and if one guy misses, there's 3 other guys ready to go. But I think the whole dynamic, probably about 10 years ago, it started shifting with a lot of concern over concussions, over head injuries, that type of thing, to figure out a way to make tackling safer. And it may have made it safer, but I think it's a harder way to tackle, So,
yeah.
Anyways, we'll see how things go in the playoffs.
Right. Well, you're right, because now each team is only one game away from the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
which is
a lot at stake.
Which is going to be played in your home neck of the woods.
SoFi, the new. There's another change of time. I'm kind of an old school stadium guy. I love Cal Stadium, Stanford's new stadium, outdoor. Just it's got modern elements to it, but a very old school setting. SoFi is like going into a museum. I kind of equated it like walking into a casino. There's multi-levels, there's restaurants everywhere, and it's just a different feeling than going to, Memorial Stadium or Stanford Stadium, and that watching a game in that environment. This was like the new era of high profile football, in a museum. But it's pretty interesting. It's a piece of art,
Well, I know on Super Bowl Sunday there'll be a lot of artists out there.
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes being one of them, if he can make it again to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, the only thing, there's another crotchety old guy remark, but when I pulled up to go to a game and the parking was $75, and it was like, what? To go to just park was $75, and that was just to an area that you couldn't tailgate. If you wanted to go to the tailgate parking lot, it was like $150 to park. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. And so,
that's a good segue, because, we've been talking a lot about sports and our great game of American football. But after your professional football career, you got into the business world in real estate. And so we talk about the cost, inflation and real estate. What are your thoughts? Because didn't you study economics at Cal?
Well, I was actually a history major at Cal, and if I wasn't going to play football, I was going to go into coaching and teaching, and I did that for a few years, and then the reality of trying to make a living being a teacher was somewhat difficult. So I transitioned and went to work for a development company and a real estate company, and then transitioned further from there into owning my own brokerage company, and then just staying in the residential investment type of stuff. But yeah, there's a lot of interesting dynamics that have occurred over the last couple of years. Where when this pandemic hit, the first sensation was that everything was going to shut down. The economy was going to go on the tank. Real estate was going to, I had a bunch of deals that were falling apart. And then very shortly after that, actually a switch went on, and it's been the most robust real estate market ever, not only in Southern California, but throughout the country, where you've seen price appreciation. You bring something to the market and there's, 30 offers on a deal. There's it's escalating in value, 200,000 over already inflated list price and stuff. So it's been a very interesting couple years going through this pandemic in the real estate market. Now, the inflationary elements, what's caused that, we truly don't know. But you have exceedingly low interest rates, a wealth factor because the stock market's just exploded as well, and a lot of people with money and the confidence that their job is somewhat insulated from whatever the pandemic may have impacted. And so you just got a very robust real estate world right now. And it's kept me busy. When they shut down a lot of things we could do, I was too busy at work to do anything else anyways. So, it's been interesting. I lost your audio.
That's, you know what? Actually, a lot of people out there saying, good, Mike, don't talk too much. But what I was saying is that, what I was trying to say is that both of us are optimists. I mean, you can't play at the level you played at. You can't have a negative glasses half full mentality. So you've taken that mentality to the business world, to the real estate world. And yes, I mean, there's no question that there's great opportunities today, but we are experiencing an inflationary time.
Yeah.
And what we do on the dot here is you get the last word, and really you get to take the show out. So we've got about 7 minutes left, and you might not want to take all 7 minutes, but I'm going to hand the show to you. And this is for Colton. I mean, this is for your grandson or whatever, because this is a recording that hundreds of years from now, when people look up, who is that guy that ran over the trombone? And this is going to be available. They're going to hear about this. So go ahead. You get the last word. And Kevin, I just want to thank you so much for coming on the dot. And you get the last word, brother.
Well, let's see. The last word, I just got to say, you know what? It's been a great experience. All our experiences together growing up, playing football, playing baseball, all those things to me are special opportunities that hopefully the kids of today get to enjoy, without too many parental involvement. I've gone back, I've coached throughout my life. I've been a coach, and even in real estate, I'm a coach as well. And so, to me, what's nice is to see kids get the opportunity to go experience what we experienced on the athletic field, because I think a lot can be learned out there with a toned down parental involvement. I used to give a sucker to parents that were over vocal, and I said, look, this is a lollipop rule. If you're too vocal, screaming and yelling and whatever, here, take one of these and go on the sideline and go sit down and just enjoy the opportunity to watch your kids participate in sports. The reality is, kids today, one fractional percent of those kids will go on to be pro athletes. The rest should just enjoy their experience at whatever level they're playing, whether it's, Pop Warner, whether it's junior high, whether it's high school. Embrace those moments that you have to be an athlete, because they don't last forever. At some point, somebody's going to tell you can't play, or your body's going to tell you can't play. And so it's your moment to go let these kids be kids and have fun like we did. So that's all I got to say to wrap things up.
Thank you. Thank you, Kevin. And don't hang up. I'm just going to turn off the broadcast.
All right.
You're the best, brother. I love you.
All right. Go Bears.
Go Cardinal.